Welcome back, class. Let's go ahead and review quickly our last session, session number 2. We examined Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We discussed the basic premise behind the hierarchy of needs, meaning that some needs are going to be more important than others. At the base of the pyramid, we have the basic physiological needs, and then as we move up, we have psychological needs, and then we had needs near the very top that focused on very aspects of the self, like self-actualization and self-transcendence. We then examined how drive reduction theory works, focused on the physiological need that causes a psychological drive that usually is going to be uncomfortable, that pushes and motivates our behavior to meet the need that started off at the very beginning in the body. Then we talked about the very important need for affiliation, the need to belong, to seek out connections with other people. And one of the things that we focused on, how important need for affiliation is, but also the important impact it has when we are being shut out. Ostracism. That it can cause a literal physical pain to us when we are ostracized or people are excluding us. So it has a great deal of impact on our behavior because then it may also motivate us to either seek remedy in a positive or negative fashion. We then examined the role of social media today and how it can have a great deal of influence on our life in a variety of ways and how it is that we do affiliate with people. And we also ended up talking about how it is that we can try to avoid addiction to such things as social media, which again, as we talked about in the previous chapter, we can be almost addicted to anything. And so we want to make sure you realize that based on social media behavior and activities and the use of mobile smartphones. So we'll pick up looking again at one of the other basic motivational concepts. We want to talk about achievement motivation. A desire for significant accomplishment, for mastery of skills or ideas, for control, and for attaining a high standard. So we want to do well is what it comes down to. But we need to also understand that people have varying levels of need for achievement. Some people may have a low need for achievement, so they may not be driven to have a great deal of mastery or have significant accomplishments, whereas other individuals may have a higher need for achievement, which does sort of motivates them to do those types of things. So research illustrates that high motivation achievers, they accomplish more, have greater financial success, have healthier social relationships, and better emotional well-being. They demonstrate persistence, self-discipline, grit, and intrinsic motivation. So basically, obviously, when it comes to the way in which we normally judge people as being successful or not, usually the people who have a high need for achievement motivation, they are going to be individuals who are normally going to be seen as at least attempting to strive for greater levels of success. Now, one other item that is somewhat related to the idea of achieving success is just something that we just need to be aware of. Research-based strategies for achieving goals. One of the things that we see with people who have this higher need for achievement, they usually set goals for themselves. These goals tend to be very concrete, meaning they're very objective, something that you can measure or count, can clearly identify that you've achieved it or not. They usually share their goals with friends and family. And what this basically does, it sort of gives you sort of a check on your behavior. When you tell somebody that you plan on doing something, then they know that you've made these plans, and so they can sometimes say, well, how's that going for you? And sort of acts as a sort of a check on your behavior as an additional motivating factor. And we also want to develop an implementation plan. How is it that we're going to achieve our goal? Having a goal is great and everything, but if you have a goal but you have no implementation plan, something that sort of says, I do this, then that, and then the other thing, and then I get closer to that goal, it's not going to be as effective. We also want to create short-term rewards that support your long-term goals. For example, everyone who's in college right now, they have several goals. One of the goals, which may be short-term, may be to be able to meet the objectives for a particular week in your class, or to be able to have a more moderate term goal of passing not the class necessarily, but passing the test. And then a little bit more extended goal may be to pass the class, with the ultimate goal, obviously, of being able to graduate. So we set these goals, we have them in the implementation plan, and we also want to try to reward ourselves when we have achieved some sort of milestone. Reward yourself by purchasing something or doing something that you really like to do but you were reluctant to do previously. Use it as a reward. We want to monitor and record our progress, create a supportive environment, and transform these behaviors into something that we can really become part of our repertoire, part of our skill set. And that can be somewhat difficult. You want to try to turn these behaviors that may be somewhat difficult for you to perform into something that is more habit forming. Now let's talk about hunger. Hunger is one of those key motivations that we have that is something that we deal with every single day. Now, this slide demonstrates is research that was done on stomach contractions. So, stomach contractions are associated with feelings of hunger. Okay, research demonstrates, however, that other factors also produce a sense of hunger. Even when stomachs are removed from us, we still have hunger. So what this really truly indicates is that our hunger, what we are experiencing, comes from other factors, not simply just our stomach. There are other factors that are going to be associated with our feelings of hunger that will motivate our behavior to try to find food, to eat something, or something of that nature. So let's look quickly at the physiology of hunger. We look at body chemistry in the brain. First, we have glucose. That's a form of sugar that circulates in the blood and provides the major source of energy for body tissues. When its level is low, we feel hunger. So that's one of the things that we experience. We have low blood sugar, we feel hunger. Okay? And then we have the set point, the point at which your weight thermostat may be set. When your body falls below this weight, increased hunger and a lowered metabolic rate may combine to restore lost weight. So, for example, what this may mean is simply the body establishes a certain weight that it believes that you need to be at. That is your set point, your set weight. Your weight thermostat has been set. And then if you, for whatever reason, like a diet or some other behavior, your weight starts to change drastically, then your thermostat will try to adjust it so that it will get you back to that set point weight that has been established for you. And then we have the basal metabolic rate, the body's resting rate of energy output. And this will change as time moves on, as you age. When you're usually younger, your metabolism runs much more efficiently and effectively. You can eat a lot more and the excess will be burned off. But if you have a slower metabolism, or as you age and your metabolism slows, the things that you eat or consume may not be burned off as easily and you may tend to gain weight. Now, this slide talks about one of the brain structures which we've discussed several times already, the hypothalamus. Okay, so the hypothalamus, as you can see in the slide on the left here, performs various body maintenance functions, including control of hunger, blood vessels that supply the hypothalamus, enabling it to respond to our current blood chemistry, for example, the glucose, as well as to incoming neural information about the body's state. So all this information coming into this particular brain structure is going to be controlling to some extent how we're going to consume food. What are we going to do by our eating behavior? The slide next to it with the two rats are very interesting here. We have the fat mouse on the left. It has non-functioning receptors in the appetite suppressing part of the hypothalamus. So it does not get the messages, okay, to stop eating, that I'm already full. So they keep eating and eating and eating, as opposed to the rat on the right, whose hypothalamus we'll assume is functioning quite well. It eats, it fills itself, it stops. But the one on the left can't because it's not getting the right messages. And so again, we see this particular brain structure has a significant role in having an impact on our eating behavior and our hunger. A couple other things too, real quickly. The appetite and hormones. Hormones that increase the appetite are ghrelin, a hormone secreted by the empty stomach, sends the I'm hungry signal. We have orexin, hunger triggering hormone secreted in by the hypothalamus. We have other types of hormones, insulin and leptin, that also play a significant role in enhancing or controlling our appetite in some way that will motivate us to eat or consume food. PYY is a digestive tract hormone that sends I'm not hungry signals to the brain. But sometimes the I'm not hungry signals can be interfered with. And we'll talk about that when we get back here. We'll talk a little bit about marijuana and some pot.